don't think you should be doing this. I haven't released a video since November. People are gonna start wondering if I'm even still alive. Besides, this is tradition.
Well, you guys can stop arguing now. Looks like the DP's here. Welcome to Werezilla's Retrospective. I'm your host, Werezilla. Is it the anniversary already? Feels like only yesterday when we started all of this.
The Unicron Trilogy wasn't easy to get through, of course. From some of the worst Transformers has to offer to extremely far removed from the overall concept to just kind of okay. Not perfect, but an improvement. As for Robots in Disguise last year, that was just a warm-up for what was to come. Not just for me, but the viewing audience as well. 2002 through 2006 gave us 3 Transformers shows that, unlike the Unicron Trilogy, were meant to be viewed by an American audience. But as a result, they ended up having more publicity and something of a reputation among the fan base. Going so far as to be scheduled to air in America before its Japanese release, the following 3 Transformers shows, Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, had a number of problems from bad animation, several continuity errors, and dull voice acting. All due to the 3 shows being rushed out as soon as they could, because they had toys on the shelves to sell, and Hasbro wants your money. And I have in fact noticed that some of you have been asking for this one for quite a long time.
My mind is being fucked!
Unicron!
This is the moment that I have planned for. Your sickness is killing.
You did this. You're maybe sick.
And you didn't even do it on screen. Quite a few feet up.
Should have guessed that it was Unicron taint. Didn't know it could affect organics, though.
Loyal to the universe itself, I affect far more than your kind, child of Primus.
Now get your taint out of my partner, Truck Truck.
The only one who can save your friend's life engine is himself. Werezilla, you shall view the Unicron Trilogy. It will slow the sickness.
You want me to review the Unicron Trilogy?
This is my command. There shall be no negotiating. Do this, or you will die.
Fine. I was gonna do it anyway, you know. You didn't need to taint me. So let's get started with Transformers Armada. We open with the appropriately named episode First Encounter, with the backstory of the Autobot-Decepticon War, along with the importance of a race of little robots called Minicons that aided both sides. Remember back when I called the Target Master Partners Minicons during the events of Headmasters? Well, here's where the term originated, along with similar traits, namely being human-sized and speaking in electronic noises. The Minicons eventually led to a stalemate, so they left Cybertron and crash-landed on Earth. Millions of years later, a Minicon is uncovered by a trio of humans, Rad, Alexis, and Carlos. Of course, the Minicon sent out a signal that Megatron was quick to follow.
You have something of mine.
We have what?
Give it back immediately, or you shall suffer the consequences.
Yes.
Stand down, Megatron.
That's just prime.
Yes, 2 iconic voices from Beast Wars making a return. I'll talk more about that later. First things first, though. This is a series that takes its sweet-ass time.
Never mind that the ensuing fight between the Autobots and Decepticons is fairly dull, with the characters barely moving in much of it. The general status quo of the series takes far too long to establish. Essentially, Optimus explains that he, Red Alert, and Hotshot have come to find the Minicons and keep them from Megatron's hands, as well as his Decepticons, Starscream, Demolisher, and Cyclonus. This could have easily been conveyed in the first episode, but they drag it out over the course of 3. I wouldn't mind if there was enough plot for 3 episodes. But instead of getting time with the Autobots and Decepticons, these early episodes are padded out with the 3 humans stumbling around and saying awkward dialogue. It's so boring, and the sad thing is, many of the early episodes would have the Autobots and Decepticons looking for the Minicons, but giving the 3 humans more screen time. And then there are 2 more humans, Fred and Billy. At first, I thought they were going to be some kind of Bulk and Skull light, but instead they befriend the Autobots too, and I can't stand either of them. Though Fred is probably the worst since he doesn't go a single scene without talking about food. No, it's not funny, and I feel insulted the writers think we would like any of these characters. Rad even steals the opening, since instead of a proper theme song, we have him exposit the premise of the show. Let's just say I'm glad it was replaced in the later episodes. I mean, we got far more interesting characters like Hotshot, who is young but skilled, Demolisher, who is loyal to Megatron but has a sense of morality, and Starscream, who gets a very different character arc than what we're used to. And instead, we are treated to these kids who contribute less than nothing. Otherwise, good scenes are ruined because of their ongoing narration.
A lot of this sounds like the complaints of the Bayformers.
Well, it turns out there's a precedent for this years before Michael Bay ever showed up on the scene.
Of course, when it was established that there were lots of Minicons, it's easy to anticipate more characters showing up so they can bond with them and eventually do. The Autobots get Smokescreen, who, despite the name, never uses the gimmick of his G1 namesake is known for. Sideswipe, who is basically a new recruit that Hotshot must train. Blur, who does not talk really fast like his G1 counterparts, the inevitable result when you don't cast the Micro Machine guy, and Jetfire, who is a bit hot-headed but Prime still trusts to be his second in command, and bottom him when they combine. The Decepticons later get Thrust, a quote-unquote tactical genius, you'll understand why I doubt that later, and Tidal Wave, who can combine with Megatron to give him some extra firepower. And then there's Scavenger. Now, he's introduced as a Decepticon, however, over his first few episodes, he seems to be giving Hotshot pointers during the fight, and it's eventually revealed why. He's an Autobot working undercover. Now, this was actually a pretty good twist. Remember, the Constructicons from Generation 1, one of whom was named, yes, Scavenger. Personally, I would have preferred if he stayed a double agent rather than openly fighting as an Autobot, but points for taking me by surprise, nonetheless. On the flip side, there's Wheeljack, who, well, like his Generation 1 counterpart, was also an Autobot, but, as we find out, years before he was left for dead by Hotshot on Cybertron. And finally, there's Sideways, probably my favorite character, who leads us to our first major plot point. Our heroes eventually discover that some Minicons, rather than bonding with a particular Cybertronian, can actually form weapons, the first one being the Star Saber. No, not that one, which Hotshot eventually acquires, and that leads to the aforementioned Sideways. After befriending the Autobots, he takes Hotshot to the Decepticons' base on the moon in hopes of finishing them off in the episode Gale. It ends less than pleasantly.
Yes, the Star Saber is mine once again!
What did you betray me for, Sideways?
I told you you'd regret it.
Huh?
So naturally, Hotshot's pride is hurt in a bad way, though Scavenger does reveal himself as an Autobot shortly afterwards, telling them about another Minicon weapon, the Skyboom Shield, which the Decepticons also managed to retrieve a little later.
Wow, these Autobots are pretty useless.
More like they're trying to make every episode lead into the next with all the mini-con weapons. Switching hands like that.
Of course, some plots don't need to be as long as they are, usually padded out with the kids, but there are ones that do deserve it, namely Starscream's arc. Now tell me, what's the Starscream you're used to? An egotistical, backstabbing coward, right? Well, they decided to do something a little different here. In this show, Starscream is more so trying to show that he can be as good as Megatron, which Megatron seems to be encouraging in his own way. This eventually leads to Starscream temporarily joining the Autobots of all things. It doesn't stick, but he does continue doubting himself and his place among the Decepticons for the rest of the series. I'm also pretty sure Alexis fell in love with Starscream, though that could be just me. The other plot point being sideways machinations. Turns out he has an agenda of his own, eventually ditching the Decepticons but nevertheless manipulating Thrust into being his servant with promises of power. So much for the master tactician. A third mini-con weapon is discovered, the Requiem Blaster, and once again it gets in the hands of the Decepticons. Smokescreen tries to stop Megatron from using it, but...
Shot through the heart, and you're too late, darling, you give love a bad name.
And even though the episode ends with the Autobots saluting Smokescreen's sacrifice, the next episode backpedals, saying he's not dead, just in critical condition. Red Alert is even able to build a new body for him as if nothing happened. Besides the fact he had a new toy on the shelves, of course. And then there's the episode Crisis. With all three mini-con weapons, Thrust builds Megatron a new weapon, the Hydra Cannon, which he plans to use against Earth, though Starscream is reluctant to use it.
Someone has altered the space bridge receiver. The Earth is on a collision course with the Sun.
Terrific! All the Autobots on Earth will be destroyed!
But Megatron is also on Earth.
Megatron? Destroyed?
I must try to reverse the procedure.
You will do nothing of the sort. Not yet, anyway.
Naturally, Prime is quick to react, using his body as a shield to stop the blast, and I think you know how this ends.
No!
What the?
He's completely disintegrated into space dust.
Optimus!
Yes, very tragic if it wasn't practically a character trait for Prime to die and then come back to life, which he promptly does 3 episodes later. Something Megatron is actually very happy about. Make of that what you will.
The Transformers will return